I always wanted, my dreams, talk about back to the bucket list,
Yeah.
being dreams. I had dreams when I was a boy of having my own television talk show. I wanted to be a talk show host, and here we are. And then I always wanted to be a Hollywood or actor, in TV or television, and I'm in that right
And
now.
you're doing it. Oh, man, do you think you would have done this if you were still married?
I will say this, and this is real hard, and this is probably as vulnerable and real as I'll ever be in public. But hey, welcome back, everybody. I'm here with my good friend, my producer, my do-all for Next Third Best Third, Taylor Lees.
Yo.
And I'm David Fenwick, the founder and host of Next Third Best Third. And today we're going to be talking about bucket lists.
Buckets.
Right? Bucket lists. And we're going to be talking about the theory of bucket lists, the benefit. There's actually a diabolical side to a bucket list. And then we're going to talk about reverse bucket lists. So I'm excited to get reverse bucket list. Yeah.
Well, now where'd you get that?
I have my ways,
Okay.
I can figure some things out here.
Hey,
I do my research.
Reverse bucket list.
Yeah, reverse bucket list. So, but first, bucket lists. When you hear that, what do you think of?
I mean, I think it's just things you want to do before you die.
Okay.
Because I've seen the movie. Heard of this phrase my whole life, and it's like, things you want to do that you may not have done, when you were younger or a certain time of your life, but you want to do it before you die.
Yeah. The bucket list theory is just that, right?
Oh,
things you want to
Okay.
do before you die, but hopefully things that will motivate you, right?
Yeah.
Things that will be kind of that carrot at the end of the stick that keeps you going, that sort of thing. And here, part of what we believe at Next Third Best Third, right, is we want people to take honest appraisal of their lives, right? To analyze their lives, inspect their lives, and then live with intentionality, right? So bucket list seemingly fits in pretty good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I never thought of a bucket list as actually a positive thing in that aspect.
Yeah.
Like the carrot before the horse, kind of keeps you going.
Yeah.
I thought it was just like, hurry up and do it before your time's done.
And I think that's where we get into some of as we're going to talk about the diabolical parts of the bucket list too, right? Because there's so much to it. you know?
Oh, yeah.
But I really have always challenged men, especially men as they're getting older, to keep dreaming, right?
Yeah.
Keep thinking what if, I say daydreams are great because they're intentional.
Yeah.
You're actually saying, what if I did this? Well, years ago, Taylor, when I was a young man, I did what if in the negative way. I drove my wife crazy because I was always like, well, we could move here. And what if we did this? And it was like this whole uncertainty. I was, don't do that.
Yeah, there's a negative side to the what if game.
Yeah. Because it came from a place of not being satisfied, of not feeling fulfilled. So, men, if you're finding yourselves doing that, my recommendation is to stop.
Flip it.
That's right. Flip it over. So, but really to think about, man, what do I really want to do with my life besides what you're doing? A real bucket list in daydreaming should not diminish the value of what you're doing today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It should never come from a place of dissatisfaction. I'm dissatisfied with what I'm doing. Rather, it should be an inspirational thing. It should be always challenging you, saying, hey, I've always wanted to do this, or I would love to accomplish this.
Yeah.
The funny thing about bucket lists, though, is who you talk to. Sometimes the bucket list is, I want to go to Australia.
Yeah.
I want to see the Taj Mahal.
Sure.
I want, something like that. For others, it's, I want to buy a brand new Ferrari, Some is, I want to become a millionaire by the time I'm 50,
Yeah.
But to each person, they're different things,
Yeah.
right? Some may just be, I want to, I'm a young family. I want to take my kids on a trip around the United States to all the national parks. Right?
Yeah.
You have any bucket list things?
Yeah. I mean, even hearing this intro, it makes me think of like the difference between a bucket list and just like my 5 or 10 year goals.
Yeah.
Because some of those could be a bucket list thing, because of my definition of the bucket list is like a little different from what I think it is. Like, oh, what would I like to do before I die, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, a couple for me is I would love to have land and like, chickens and like some animals on it, and like a big wraparound porch around the house, and like maybe big enough to have deer on it and things like that, so the kids can play and hang out, the grandkids too. And I envision like my wife and I just growing old together, sitting on the porch on the rocking chair, just drinking our coffee or tea and just talking.
You with your deer rifle in your arms, waiting for the deer to go
I
by.
love to.
I know you
just
do.
like, hey babe, hold on.
When you're like, "Oh yeah, I want this so the kids can have fun," and I hear
and
deer.
then I'm like, but I like to have fun too. So so that's a goal bucket list thing, I think, crossing off. And there's like other things I think that I would love to, like you brought up Australia. I've never been there. I've traveled the world, but I haven't been to Australia. Love to go there because their coffee scene is pretty incredible. So I just want to go check it out because I'm a coffee fanatic. And so just small things. I mean, I wouldn't even classify them as small, but just like things like that, where would I like to go is something on the bucket list. What would I like to see come to fruition when it comes to like maybe building something or having something with my family. And then maybe just some goofy, weird, like out of the box, like this may not ever happen, but maybe it could,
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's a delineation right between goals and bucket lists.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because there are goals that we should have for our lives. Like, I want to, keep bettering my family situation. I want to move out and be on 10 acres or something like that. That's really more a goal than a bucket list.
Yeah.
But the line gets a little blurry there. But, for me, a bucket list has always been something that I would like to do that would be almost like a dream fulfilled. More than an accomplishment that I reach.
Yeah.
So, 2 years ago, I checked one off when I went golfing in Ireland and Scotland, right?
Man.
And that was fantastic, right? And I've got other dreams and goals that I want to see done.
Yeah.
In my life.
Golf related or?
Well, golf related for sure, but just other things that places I'd like to go see.
Yeah.
There's people I'd like to meet, but one of my big bucket list things is I'm acting on it. And we're going to talk about that too, about partnering with your bucket list. Just to have these aspirations is one thing. And the bucket list theory says that if you have these, it can motivate you. It can be inspirational, right? But there's a diabolical side to the bucket list. And there's a article in Psychology Today that spoke about this, and basically what it said, that you have to be careful with the bucket list, because the way human nature is and the human psyche, if you've got these things that you want to do, and as you age they become more and more elusive, or you fail to do them, you can internalize that as a failure of yourself, right?
Well, yeah, because when you even look up what is the meaning of bucket list, the very first thing is from Stanford University, Stanford. It says a bucket list is a list of experiences or achievements that a person hopes to have or accomplish during their lifetime. A bucket list is an itemized list of goals people want to accomplish before they kick the bucket or die.
Yeah.
So that kind of ties into what you just said about like, oh man, if I don't reach, I'm feeling like sick, or like I'm feeling like I only have a few more years left. Like I don't think, and then you kind of, instead of, if I have a few more years left, how can I add to my years? Or like, I have a few more years left, I'm just going to mope and be sad. So, but I feel the idea of what a bucket list or a dream list, even calling it something different maybe.
Right.
But the theory, it's interesting how you brought that up.
Yeah, and because we talk a lot here, one of our 5 pillars is your identity issues, things that war against your identity, things like fears, sense of failure, disappointment, disillusionment. If we're not careful, and if our hearts aren't right when we set our bucket list, and if it's coming from a place of this will validate me if I accomplish it, right? This will make me feel like I'm worthy or I'm
Yeah,
worthwhile, and
that's
you
good.
don't accomplish it, it can turn around and you could say, man, see, I've always been a failure, or
Yeah.
I knew this would never work, or why would I even think I could accomplish
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah. There's just a lot of people that are just wired differently where they're just not good at setting goals.
Yeah.
They just because maybe they've lived a whole culture of just not having goals set and achieving them well, or even how they're raised.
Yeah.
Like, growing up with a father and a mother that not really like, hey guys, we're gonna have a goal this year as a family.
Yeah.
Like thinking about that, because that just hit me when you just said all that. I was like, oh man, because I go back to a series that you did earlier this year, is like how to really go after 2025. And like, to me, I'm like, oh man, I wrote down my bucket list of the year, or whatever you want to,
Right.
your goals of the year. But,
Right.
I'm going after some of them, but sometimes I forget I had them.
Right.
And maybe it's because I grew up in that culture.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But life does get busy, but
It does.
yeah,
Yeah.
I grew up, a good family, middle class family, but my family mantra was really more, you work hard because you have bills to pay.
Yeah.
And that was it. It's just what you do. You just work hard, and because of some of the things that I was challenged with as a boy, I had this lie attached that I didn't deserve good things. And you put that in with this mentality of, it's not a goal setting family. We didn't have any kind of quote unquote legacy of setting goals.
Wow.
Instead, it was just, you go to work. My dad was a hard working man. He was, we grew up in a small town, and he was, everyone knew him, right?
Yeah.
He had big personality. Everyone loved my dad. So that was enough, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, it wasn't until really later in life that I started to look at my life and say, I need to take honest appraisal, and I need to be intentional.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where Next Third Best Third was birthed.
Yeah.
With that, because now I am actually dreaming,
Yeah.
And if you want to call it a bucket list, I'm okay with that,
Yeah.
But it's coming from a place not of pain or failure or identity, trying to affirm my identity. It's coming from this hope-filled, man, this would be so cool if.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting, because it makes me think, because I felt I was the same way for years in my 20s, leading into my 30s, even part of my marriage for first couple of years, I would have this rhythm of nothing lasted past a year, nothing
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
So like it would either be a year or two, something bad would happen. So I would go on this cycle of oh, things are good for a year. Oh, I'm doing great. And then all of a sudden the 18th month mark comes, or the 2-year mark comes, and everything crashes and burns. And I was like, man, this always nothing good ever happens to me. Nothing never lasts. So every 2 years my dreams die. So I lived that and believed that curse, that I was cursed, and that I was that way, to where I kind of stopped dreaming. I kind of stopped setting big goals or trying for them, because they're just not going to last. And even with my marriage I have now with my beautiful kids and everything, in the beginning I remember we were going through some therapy, and it hit me like, oh my gosh, I'm still believing that this marriage isn't going to work.
Yeah.
Like there's a part of me that's like, oh, you're getting up to that 2-year mark, man. Guess what?
Right.
She's going to leave you.
Yeah.
But thank God I have a woman in my life that she would not ever give up on me. So I'm like because she didn't give up on me, I didn't give up on myself, and I didn't believe that curse, so I broke it.
That's
so
so
now
great.
we're going to celebrate 7 years now.
Come
And
on.
I can't remember the last time I thought like, oh, something bad's about to happen.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking now, oh, something good's about to happen.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
so great.
And so that's kind of helping me with this like re-dream again. Because I honestly, before you came up to me with this idea of doing a bucket list, I was like, I haven't thought about a bucket list in a long time.
Right.
And I mean, yeah, I have my dreams with my family and stuff now, but I'm like, oh man, and it's getting me excited to think of like, I want to go and make a list now.
Absolutely.
Because I'm like, because I feel, even though, yeah, there's some negative sides to it where like, oh, I'm not gonna ever make it, but But yeah, kind of breaking that cycle of like to dream again and go after a dream, maybe adding one thing on the bucket list and going
Yeah.
after that first and then adding more.
It can be such a powerful tool. You
Yeah.
know, our friend Danny Silk says that everybody should write out 100 dreams for their life. 100.
Danny,
Yeah.
that's too much.
That's right. You're a little over the top, Danny.
100.
But so I started writing out some of those dreams, and there's no way I'm going to get to 100. Maybe I will one day. But the thing about it is it still comes down to where, what's the source, you know, of that? Are you like you were at a point thinking, no, this will never work,
Yeah.
right? So even the goals and the dreams and the things you were setting forth, you had serious doubt that it's ever going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't hope filled.
That's true.
So you're kind of setting yourself up.
Yeah.
And that's what that article is talking about, the diabolical thing about bucket lists is if you're not started at the right foundation, the right belief,
Yeah.
you know, and that right belief is not that what you accomplish or don't accomplish defines you, you know.
That's important because of identity. I mean,
right.
it's like, man, when you don't have your identity really solidified in who you are, I mean, it's really difficult to dream.
Yeah,
So because then you actually start to live off of other people's dreams,
right.
and you don't know how to live off of your own, or
That's
how
such
to
a
create
good
your
point.
own. You just look at other people's lives and compare yourself, and they're like, I want that dream.
Yeah,
But that's not even your dream; it's theirs.
that's right.
So, damn,
Yeah,
man,
you
it's
don't want to hitch
dangerous.
your wagon to somebody else's dream or try to
Yeah.
live off of it.
Gosh.
The second part of this danger or diabolicalness of bucket lists is that what if you actually accomplish something? And in the article, he says, okay, what if your goal was to visit the Taj Mahal one day? Okay? So you and your spouse or significant other or family, you save up the money, and it's an expensive trip.
Yes.
You're spending a ton of money to go across, you know, over the ocean and across continents. You get there, and you land, and all of a sudden it's hustle and bustle, and the taxis are hot and sweaty, and it's a crowded streets, and you're seeing all this stuff. You get to the Taj Mahal, and the street smells like urine, and there's flies around you and everything, and you're there in front of the Taj Mahal going, okay,
Yeah.
you know, that can be extremely devastating. Now he used that
Well,
idea.
he's on to something. I've been to the Taj Mahal.
Yeah.
So he is.
Have you really?
Oh yeah, and he is absolutely right. I'm like, I don't know why it's one of the seven wonders of the world. I honestly don't, because the journey to get there is not pleasant.
Yeah.
Like you said, I mean, dirt roads, it smells. It's so sad when every stoplight you get to, there's little children trying to beg for money, and
Right.
you know, there's the guy waiting on the corner of the street, beating them if they don't collect. It's a terrible scenario just to get to the spot. Yeah. When you get to the spot, I forget the name of the river, but that river is where the Ganges River, something like that, and it's where they do all their sacrifices and everything on that river. So it's like one of the most polluted, disgusting rivers in the world.
Yeah.
Right next to one of the seven wonders of the world. So literally, it stinks, it smells. But then you're staring at this beautiful thing that's like made and created. I'm just like, your brain is just getting psyched out.
Yeah.
And yeah, but it's crazy. Yeah.
Well, you know, what if one of your things? I'm a foodie. I love good food. I know you are too.
Oh, yeah.
And so, what if we wanted to go to a 5-star Michelin restaurant? Right. That's our goal. Right. Top restaurant.
David. I think there's only 3 stars.
Or 3-star. I'm sorry. 3-star Michelin.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's why you're here. You're correcting me. But
Fact checker. I'm the fact checker.
A 3-star Michelin, right? And so we go to a 3-star Michelin restaurant, and it's good. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
You know, and it's really, really expensive.
Yeah.
And you're done, and you're leaving, and you're going that good and everything, and all of a sudden you're looking at yourself kind of later going, it was good. Mm-hmm. But is that all there is?
Man. Do you think you would feel that after? Have you been to a Michelin star restaurant?
I've been to a Michelin star restaurant. I've never been to.
Do you know what it was ranked?
It was a 1-star.
It was a 1-star.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's here we live in Austin, so there's a Michelin star barbecue restaurant.
Yeah, yes, there is.
So I want to go check
Is
it
that
out.
Interstellar? Or?
No, it's Leroy and Lewis.
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
And it's funny. I went to them before they got real big. So I don't know if they've just improved or what, but yeah, there's been some places where I've gone and I've tried that food and I'm like, man, luckily I didn't have to pay for it that time, but,
Well, that helps.
yeah, you're right. I mean, it's like the hype is big and then you go and then you're just kind of like,
And it basically what he says in the article is it just didn't meet your expectations. And now I've got this whole thing on unrealistic expectations, right?
Yep.
I think one of the biggest stumbling blocks in our relationships with one another, especially spouses, is unrealistic expectations.
I mean, that's huge. Yeah.
And so if you're going to a bucket list, you get there and it didn't meet your amped up fantasy expectations. It was good.
Yeah.
It was real good, but it didn't match up exactly. And again, where do you find yourself going, if you're not careful. And that's where it can get a little bit tricky.
Where do you think that ties into? Back to identity? Or like how would you fix that?
Well, again, I think unrealistic expectations in that aspect is that you're coming from this point of view where you feel like this will fulfill me. If I experience this, there's a fulfillment. So now there's a lack of fulfillment. It didn't fit. Let's get real spiritual but it didn't fill the void.
Yeah.
So I go and I do this. I go and I climb some mountain, Kilimanjaro or something like this. Or I go to Fiji Islands and everything. It was really great. And then you come home and you still have a void. There's still a hollowness because we try to fill a spiritual void, an identity in our lives with things and with activities and events and things like that. And so often, as good as they are, we come back and we still look in the mirror.
Maybe that's why it's important maybe to have a category of bucket lists that you create that are balanced, where it's like a spiritual bucket list, a physical bucket list, a mental bucket list, of a community bucket list, almost like taking your pillars and doing a bucket list for each of those to start. Because you could totally, like, man, that's a great point where you could totally, like, going back to Danny Silk's, like, write 100 dreams. Your identity could become those 100 dreams that you're chasing after, and then you don't make it, then you get sad and the voids aren't filled because you didn't fulfill those dreams. But it's like, but what if you have a nice balance of like dreams or bucket list where it can fulfill like the void in all these different voids? Because I feel like we all have voids in each parts of our human psyche and body. And
no matter who
that.
you are.
It doesn't matter who you are. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because as I was preparing for this, I got thinking about how could I circumvent this from happening? And it would be like asking myself a question, writing out the things I want to do, and then asking myself a couple of questions. One is, why do I want to do this?
Yeah.
Why do I really want to do this? Is this filling some sort of a void? Is this an identity? Is this tied to something from my past? Is it, what's my motivation? Yeah. And then ask yourself the question is, what if I accomplish it and I don't feel fulfilled? Kind of prepare yourself in advance.
Yeah. Well, but do you think thinking that way is back to the other side of the bucket list? It's like, even though who cares if you don't get fulfilled? Right. You did something cool, And
that's how it should be.
That's how it should be.
Yeah.
Because do you think that prepared, like having that mindset of the preparation, like I'm gonna prepare to be let down? Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It makes me think of that.
So I had a bucket list of going to Ireland, Scotland. That was one of my, we mentioned that earlier. Yeah. And the story, but I'll remind you is I hadn't played much golf at all for years and years. And I was going with a group of guys who I knew one of the guys, and it was going to be a group of 16. And one of my dear oldest friends was putting it together, and he was really motivating me. And he and I used to play some golf. He was very, very competitive. Yeah. This group is very, very competitive. So I knew going in I was probably going to be the worst golfer. And that was okay because it was this dream trip. Yeah. So I binge on preparation. I mean, I'm hitting balls after balls. I mean, I'm working my butt off trying to get some semblance of a swing so I don't embarrass myself. Yeah. And I overswing on a golf course on the 18th tee, and my left hip pops out of socket.
While you're there?
Yeah, on the golf. No, not in Ireland. This is here.
Preparing for it.
This was like 6 days before the trip. My left, I dropped to the ground and it's gone. I had to go to a chiropractor friend of mine who popped it back in, and that hurt worse than it popping out. And I'm like, I'm done. I call my friend that night saying, I'm not going to be able to make it. He says, well, David, he goes, I don't know if it's refundable, all these things. And I call my girls are very close to me, right? And my son. But I called a couple of my daughters up on the phone, and one of them in particular says, Dad, you got to go. And I'm like, I'm not sure. Well, the next day she shows up at my place, and she says, Dad, I mean it. You have to go. And I'm like, all right. She goes, you never do anything for yourself. This is one time that you're doing something for yourself. She goes, even if you can't play, you got to go and experience it.
That's good.
And because we were playing the Rota, so we were playing courses that are all considered part of the British Open rotation.
So cool.
I mean,
oh my,
11 courses in like 14 days, 13 days.
That's
right?
wild.
So I decided I was going to go. I bought myself a brace that wraps around your hip and wraps around your leg to keep that in place. I had a knee problem, and I found myself overcompensating, so I had to buy a sleeve to go over my right knee.
Wow.
So here I'm all braced up for golf.
Yeah, you're kind of like a guy with a cast.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
Oh my gosh.
And I go, and we get there, and I end up playing 10 out of the 11 rounds.
Wow.
Which was miraculous.
That's incredible.
Because we had to walk most of the way. Right?
Yeah, because they don't have golf carts.
No, there's 2 courses where they allowed me to have a cart, but the rest of them did not.
Yeah, because they're so historic. They're like, there's no golf trails.
Right. So we had caddies, golf carts. Yeah. And the caddies was a whole nother story.
Oh man,
we'll get into that sometime. But Scottish caddies are so funny.
Really?
Yeah, and the F word is what they use, like we would say or and. I mean, they just fire that thing out all the time.
Oh my gosh!
So it was just so much fun, and I was with guys. And this trip it didn't meet my expectations for a lot of reasons because I was so injured and I fought my way through. Wow. But I met like 14 guys who 3 of them are now good friends of mine.
Wow.
We're in constant, kind of relationship.
Yeah.
I learned so much about myself. I learned about the countryside, the nation that we were at, the different nations, Ireland, Scotland. And I came back and I was so glad I went,
Wow.
But I guess my point on that is it didn't meet physically I was hampered, you know. But coming back, I came back and I was so grateful. I was just so grateful for the trip. But I think when we talk about it, I brought that up because I could have made a real bad error in judgment if I over-prepared and thought to myself this is what I expect to get out of this.
Yeah. Because
then I would have come back maybe disappointed.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I hear what you're saying there because it's hard to, especially getting injured, and it's like getting injured to go hike the mountain, and you're like, this isn't gonna go as I thought. Yeah. But that's just a circumstance that came up. That but at the other side of it, you had so many cool memories now, and your daughter, it was worth going.
And you and I are thinking about maybe going next year.
I know.
Come on.
I know. Hey,
it'd be so much fun.
That would be. I just have to convince my wife that it's a great idea.
And I'm telling you,
I might bring her so she can just go and do her thing and stay in a little cabin. And so
you're going to bring her with a group of 12 or 14, 16
They won't
guys.
even know she's there.
We go on a tour bus.
Okay, maybe not. or maybe we'll figure it out. Yeah, but maybe she can go with her girlfriends to another part of Scotland. I don't know.
No.
She's just got real jealous when I brought up, hey, babe, because I didn't think of it as a bucket list thing, but I've started getting really into golf recently.
Yeah.
I've been playing golf, for 17 years, but the history, the courses, I've been playing some really cool courses recently. So hearing about Scotland and Ireland, and I'm like, I want to do that. Because when I bring it up to other people that love golf, they're like, oh my God, that's a bucket list. I wish I can go do that. And I'm like, well, I'm going to go do it next year.
Yeah,
and they're like, you're going to what? And so when my wife hears I'm going, she's like, that's not fair. Yeah. I want to go.
So this is going to segue into something that I think is really important to at least talk about, and for some of the guys to hear this is it's what keeps you from accomplishing and reaching these bucket lists.
Yeah.
And so often it's because you're afraid, right? Afraid because of the cost, or can I really do this?
Yeah.
This trip to Ireland is going to cost well over 10 grand.
Yeah.
Right. It's just, we're playing the best courses in the world.
Yeah.
Caddies are $200 a round.
Yeah.
I mean, it's dumb.
Yeah.
The amount of money.
Yeah.
But it's so much fun, and it's worth it.
Yeah.
But I have talked with a lot of men who have regrets for not doing something. And the reason they didn't do it, they didn't go on that trip or take the family to this place or do something, is because of the expense and the cost. And this goes back to kind of what we talked about retirement. Even I'm in the middle. I'm in the beginning stages of my book on legacy.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between legacy and inheritance.
Yeah.
And inheritance often is tied to money, and things you pass down. And I'm going to tell you guys, if there's something that you want to do with your wife or your family, and you have the opportunity, and you're looking at it, you're saying it's just too expensive, do it.
Yeah.
Do it. What's that $10,000? You might think, well, that I could invest it in stocks and leave it down to my kid.
Yeah.
But what you're doing by taking them on a trip or something like that is you're creating a legacy, something they're going to remember forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's true. I think my wife, three of us were talking about right before we started filming, and she brought up this time in our lives where before our kids showed up.
Yeah.
We went on a baby moon, and so Wes was in the womb. He was getting ready. It was the early stages, so Caitlin was pretty active and could get around pretty good. And she's like, let's go to Hawaii. Let's have our baby. And I'm like, that's a lot of money, man. Going to Hawaii. We went for like 5 days. I mean, it was up there. It was close to 10,000. No, I mean, maybe 5,000 or so. I don't even remember. See?
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
You don't even remember, but you remember the trip.
Yeah, I remember the trip. I don't remember the cost. But the thing is, when we came back, we were like, okay, we can't eat out for a few months. Like, we can't. But we made adjustments. But the thing is, it was worth taking that time, because I'll never forget that trip we had into Hawaii. I still think about it. I actually overcome some awesome fears being on that trip.
Yeah.
I did some things I've never done before on that trip. And but yes, it put us in a financial pickle, but it didn't like kill us. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, go do your trip, and even though it'll put you in $20,000 in debt, like maybe rethink that. Like,
be responsible.
Think
don't be
about
silly, and don't like put it all on a credit card. I mean, that's dumb.
That's not. Yeah.
But don't operate out of a fear, because it's interesting. I think I did a podcast on this. If not, I know I've spoken about it before. But we think in the West, we think in America that greed is wanting more and more and more. That's gluttony. Gluttony is wanting more and more and more. You know what greed is? It's a fear of not having enough.
Oh, wow.
So you can be a poor person just riddled with greed.
Wow. Yeah.
Haunted by greed.
Yeah.
You can be a wealthy person, who's haunted by greed, right?
Yeah.
But gluttony is this, I got to have more, So when we think about corporate greed, it's really corporate gluttony, just I want it all, that kind of thing. But greed is, you could be operating in fear, saying, I don't think I'm going to have enough, and you can actually rob your family from some amazing experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, so whatever that first thing you think about hearing this, whatever that little trip is or whatever, you should go do it.
At least put it on the top of your bucket list and
start
targeting. You're right, put it on the table and being intentional. So I want to talk now about something that I discovered, and it's the reverse bucket list. You ever hear that?
A reverse bucket list?
The reverse bucket list.
So you make a list before you die. So what? And this one's like before you're born. Like what is this?
So here's a definition. It's a list that focuses on past accomplishments rather than future goals.
Huh.
It's like the traditional bucket list, but it's an exercise in recognizing and appreciating the accomplishments that in the things you've overcome in your past.
Wow.
It sets you into a position of gratitude.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I love that.
That's good.
It's the opposite because it's the things you've already accomplished. It's a mindfulness exercise because it encourages you to reflect on your past successes and find joy in them. It's an actual aggressive assault on regret.
Wow. Yeah.
Instead of having regret, start building, saying, man, I did this.
Yeah.
We did this as a family. This was an amazing experience. It helps you acknowledge your achievements and appreciate life's journey. So here's they say, I love this because this ties so much into next third, best third.
Yeah.
How to create one.
Okay.
Choose your focus. Decide whether you want to focus on personal, professional, or relational accomplishments.
Okay.
Or the 5 pillars of next third, best third. Start reflecting. Think about the things you've done that makes you proud, whether big or small. Socrates says an unexamined life is not a life worth living. Look back at your life and anything you've accomplished that has made you proud.
Wow.
Write it down, which is such a key to everything.
I mean, yeah.
And then include anything that comes to mind. Don't judge, even if it seems insignificant. If it was an accomplishment at any point of your life, write it down. I love that. And then it says, reflect and enjoy. Take time to appreciate your accomplishments and the journey you've taken. I could see doing this and periodically taking it out, right? Having it in a journal and periodically taking it out and just read through it and celebrate.
Man. Yeah, even doing this, like if you're married, doing this with your spouse.
Absolutely.
And then if you're single, I mean, do it with one of your closest friends.
Yeah.
And even challenge your closest friend to do it with you.
Oh, I think you could do it in so many relationships.
Yeah.
I think you can do it by yourself, whether you're married or not.
Sure.
Then do it with your spouse.
Yeah.
And then do it with your group of intimate friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, we call it in our circles testimony, right? There's power in testimony. You start hearing about things that have happened and you've accomplished. And I'm telling you, it is an assault on regret.
Yeah. It does something to your mind. Like when you start to bring that kind of stuff up and you're like, this is where I was, this is where I am now. Look at this. I mean, it really helps and brings a lot of joy into your life.
So here's some examples. Personal accomplishment, graduation, marriage, starting a family, buying a home, learning a new skill, overcoming a fear.
Yeah.
I mean, that's real.
Yeah.
Professional, getting a promotion, landing a new job, winning an award, publishing a paper, starting a business. Relationships, building strong relationships with loved ones, expanding, and I love this, expanding your sphere of influence, your circle, building more and more relationships.
You talk about that a lot.
I do.
Yeah.
And forgiving past hurts. And then travel experience, visiting new places, hiking a trail, trying a new restaurant, that all goes into the bucket list kind of thing too. But these are things you've already done.
Yeah.
Like talking about that barbecue, restaurant that you went to and you love, right?
Yeah.
And then benefits, increased gratitude, right? It helps you appreciate the good things in your life. Boosted self-esteem, recognizing your achievements can lead to a greater sense of self-worth.
Wow.
And I would say this is, as you look back, I know for myself, as I've reflected back over my life on this journey over these last 7 years, I've gone into the decades and I've seen where I've struggled. I've seen my failures, but I've also seen where I've overcome and I've seen the good things.
Yeah.
And that has helped me have hope for the future.
And that's good. And I feel like even this list for the reverse bucket list, there's been so many studies now of like when you have gratitude in your life and Thanksgiving, it actually improves your health, your physical health. And it's wild. Like, I mean, because, you and I, we believe in God and it's just amazing when you give thanks to the Lord or when you give thanks and you have so much Thanksgiving, like it changes your brain. It changes your literally like organs start to like operate differently. It's crazy the stuff that they're finding. Yeah. Because and it just blows my mind. Like
your thought life, your emotional well-being, your relationships, your identity all ties into your physical, which all ties into the others.
It's wild.
They're interwoven, which is why those 5 pillars are so important, And like when you go back and you see some of the things that you have accomplished, it helps your self-worth, right?
Yeah.
So when
Your
you're
identity.
it's an identity thing. So
Yeah.
when you're facing things going, I'm not sure I can do this. I'm fearful about this.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then all of a sudden you go back to your list saying, well, I overcame this. It's like David in the Bible. He's facing Goliath. And what did he call upon? Like, he didn't put on the armor of Saul, right? He
Yeah.
didn't take the weapons of the warriors.
Yeah.
Instead, he says, oh no, I've killed a lion and a bear. I know how to handle this.
Yeah. I mean, I remember one time I was just feeling so down and depressed, and I went back and during my darkest times in my life, when I came out of that, I started to write down everything that was happening to me.
Yeah.
And I did it for a year and a half. And I opened that up and I started to read it. And I towards the end, I started crying. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, look how far I've come.
Come on.
Even from like how I was writing in my negativity to my healing process, to like where I was, the things I was accomplishing, the visions and dreams I was getting, like, and then the goals I was setting for my life. I was like, oh my gosh. And after I was done looking through it, I was just like, I was like, man,
It's so good.
It's wild.
Yeah. It helps you with motivation, and what you said, it affects your anxiety level, your stress level, your physical level. I know this, and you know my story as well as anybody, but where I've come from in the last 7 years. 7 years ago, I was literally a shell. I was just barely making it because I had to. Right? I had a 12-year-old at home, and I had to take care of her.
Yeah.
And then looking back now and seeing the accomplishments along the way, I always wanted, my dreams, talk about back to the bucket list, being dreams. I had dreams when I was a boy of having my own television talk show. I wanted to be a talk show host. And here we are. Right? We're doing it, right? At this point in my life. And then I always wanted to be a Hollywood or actor, in TV or television. And I'm in that right now.
And you're doing it.
And it's just so much fun because I didn't think of it as a bucket list at the time.
Yeah.
But it's as these things came to pass and they started happening, I did the reverse. I went back and I go, I always wanted to do this.
Yeah.
Oh,
man, this is probably going to have to be not a part 2, but maybe we'll have a discussion on this. Do you think you would have done this if you were still married?
It could be a part 2. But
man,
I will say this, and this is really hard, and this is probably as vulnerable and real as I'll ever be in public. But I don't think I ever would have.
Yeah.
And I'm actually grateful for what I went through because I'm a better version of me.
Yeah.
I'm a better David than I ever was in my life.
Man.
And it only came through the pain and coming through it.
Oh, man. That's tough, man. Because it's like, I mean, you think about that stuff. I know it's a small tangent, but it still lines in with vision and dreams.
Yeah.
But, I mean, like, we don't believe in divorce.
No.
We stick it out, work on it. But because I've been through a divorce as well, and the reason why I went through my divorce was the dumbest reason ever. It's literally like there was a list on the paperwork, and at the very bottom of the reason was the person just doesn't like him anymore. They just don't fit.
Yeah.
And all the other reasons were like abuse and idolatry, all this stuff.
What do they call it? Irreconcilable differences?
Something like that. It was like something that's like, oh, they just don't like each other. Yeah. And I'm like that. And so for us, I mean, of course, if you're in an abusive relationship and you are suffering an abuse, and if your husband or wife is cheating on you constantly, of course, we were like, maybe that is something you need to consider getting out of. But when it comes to divorce, like for none of those reasons outside of those two there, it's just, but then you think about that, like when you make a bucket list, are you making one for yourself or for you and your spouse if you're divorced or married? Like, I mean, man, it just hit me when you were bringing that up.
Yeah. Like,
look at these things that you've done. Would have you have done them if you were still married? And that, I mean, again, we can go into another part of this, but I mean, oh man, It's tough.
As you said that, I started thinking about probably the reality that if you're going through divorce or you've gone through divorce is you might have had a bucket list as a family or as a couple. Yeah. And maybe now you have to revisit that and shuffle things around a bit, right?
Yeah.
But that's why I think that it's good. You had mentioned earlier that you dream and write out things for yourself.
Yeah.
You do it for you and your spouse as a married couple, for your family.
Yeah.
And then, you can do it for a professional and all these different things.
Yeah.
And I think that's wisdom.
And and that's great because I feel you should never stop dreaming.
No.
But if you have a hard time, you can reach out to us, of course. Like if you're having a hard time dreaming, you can reach out to us on the podcast, to David's email, comments and all that, because we'll help you dream again. Because David's gone through enough to where he can help you ignite that dream again. But I mean, it's hard to let your dreams die when you go through the darkest parts of your life. Like you can't see ahead. You only see what's going on now and then what you've done in the past and living in the regret. It's too hard to see ahead.
Yeah.
And if you do see ahead, it's filtered through the dark and the disgusting and the regret. So that's the filter you're wearing, seeing that. And so you can't see anything good. Yeah. So bucket list, dreams, like don't redo them. If say you add them with the family and some circumstance happened, just kind of rewire it, but still go after it.
I think now that we've kind of gone through this, what I would say is, first and foremost, create a reverse bucket list.
Yeah, that's good.
Because if you position yourself from gratitude, then
filter.
you create your bucket list.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that's how you bulletproof yourself on the bucket list side.
Yeah.
That it doesn't come back and haunt you if you don't accomplish something. Because you're grounded in the truth of what you have, the truth of gratefulness.
Yep.
And then you can approach these other things going, what if?
Yeah.
I can be an actor at age 66.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, and I think it's important also to consider when you're making your bucket list, because I'm going to go make one now. Like this is great, but like making one that is challenges you physically, yes, mentally, spiritually, cognitively. Like I mean, the things that David has on his pillars, taking those 5 pillars and then building a bucket list off of those 5. And so I think that would be real important too. Cause like we brought up earlier, if you just focus on one part of a bucket list, I mean, it could turn into something negative. Yeah. If you're too focused on just the physical, and then your spiritual, your connection with other people, the heart stuff may get maybe get hurt during that process. Right.
But again, I think you can protect yourself by going back, no matter how small it might have been, and no matter how long ago. Yeah. Because I know there's guys here that used to be great athletes and now they're terribly out of shape. But your reverse bucket list is you should be grateful and remind yourself, hey, I was a stud. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, be thankful for that. Yeah. Because it was real.
That's right. That's good.
Yeah. So anyway, this is fun.
This is good.
Yeah, I'm glad we did this one. Wow. So again, thank you guys for joining, guys and gals. We appreciate you so much. If you could do us a favor and click subscribe, comment, that helps a lot. Share this on your social media and just encourage those in your sphere of influence to examine their lives, be intentional, and make the next third their very, very best third. See you next time. Yeah.